Hi, today I'm going to tell you about my predictions for market, weather, and sort of geopolitical events based on astrology for the week of February 18th. First, let's do a quick recap of the prior week, so the week of February 11th. As far as the direction for the stock market, again, my predictions, unfortunately, were no better than chance, so I think it was only 1 or 2 days where the exact direction of the stock market, and by stock market I mean NASDAQ and Dow Jones, were in the direction that I predicted. That said, I don't ever say that my predictions for the directions are 100% correct. I give the probability, and the probability is in like 55-60%. So generally what I think might happen, that again doesn't mean that I expect it to be 100% accuracy, because there are many factors that are involved, both astrologically of course and just in terms of business. So as far as just other events that I mentioned in my predictions last week, they had to do with, to a large degree, with some sort of events that relate to either airspace, transportation via air, or military that again involve some sort of surprising events, or sports that may involve surprising events, specifically related to like LGBT community, and or just weather events that may basically result in some sort of storms, fires, and or sudden surprising events again that relate to, say, aerospace, communications, IT, etc. So as far as those predictions, I did see some news on the 14th of February about like a fairly major problems, I guess, with a flight from California or to California, I'm not sure, where the plane nosedove twice, sending 3 people to the hospital. So it was a pretty big turbulence, and there was, again, on the same day, there was an announcement by Airbus about them canceling, I guess, the production of their biggest airline. I believe it's A380. So again, just some news basically that relate to kind of, again, airspace, and some surprising events that relate with either turbulence or some sort of I wouldn't say necessarily a surprising, maybe the cancellation by Airbus was not surprising to the analysts, but rather the fact that it was kind of announced on the same day where you have some other news about other surprises that relate to airspace and or some sort of turbulence or problems. There was also an announcement, I'm not sure if it was, I think it was on the 12th of February, where there was a surprising visit by the acting Pentagon chief to Iraq and Afghanistan. And again, that was my prediction exactly. There will be some news about the military leaders making some surprising moves. There was also news about Martina Navratilova making some comments that were basically criticized, where she made some negative comments about the transgender women participating in sports. So again, that kind of fits with my prediction about some news about the LGBT issues in either sports or military community. So let's see. There are also some other news about basically like there's some roof collapse in St. Petersburg University, but again, this is more, I would say, ongoing kind of news that we hear about buildings collapsing, floors, giving way, roofs collapsing, just so many of them, I would say, this year that I haven't necessarily heard in prior years. My personal feel on it, as far as astrological predictions go, is that this has to do with that whole sort of aspect of transit of Pluto and Saturn through Capricorn, and they're getting closer and closer together. So as time goes by, this year and next year even, these kind of news will only sort of intensify. They will have more and more such occurrences, because again, Capricorn has to do with like old building structures. Pluto and Saturn will basically really test those buildings. So anything that is a shady construction, really old, it will be bound to collapse unless it's really repaired well. That said, projects that have to do with construction, like this whole wall that they're talking about, any tunnels, any really major like dam or something like a really major big construction project, it actually, if it's undertaken during this time, it will also be fairly strong, and it will stand the test of time. So it's kind of things that are not well made will collapse or really old. However, things that are made well and are constructed with thorough sort of adherence to the construction codes and using quality material, again, at this time they will likely be very enduring and will stand a long time. I think there was also a prediction about some new either campaigns or military campaigns or some sort of defense campaigns, something like that, that if it begins around the 15th of February, it would then last about 2 years just because of the cycle of Mars. Mars has to do with military things. I'm not sure if it does necessarily reflect the decision of Donald Trump to announce the, I believe it's some sort of emergency situation, national emergency. But if it is, which is possible because again, it does have this military vibe to it in the sense that the emergency, you need to protect yourself from something, that it may indeed be something, some sort of project or related projects that may last for about 2 years, slightly under 2 years, which I guess would make sense because his presidency will be lasting 2 more years or so. So let's see. Oh yeah, there was another prediction for, I believe, also Wednesday of last week, that there may be some acquisition or some decision made by communication and transportation business that may be based on some sort of more of a emotional reaction or decision that's based on beliefs or emotion rather than logic or some evaluation. And I saw that there was a news about Amazon acquiring a startup that offers a Wi-Fi system, I guess that somehow replaces a traditional router. So basically something that I guess helps Amazon to I guess provide resources or provide services for the smart homes. And I was thinking that maybe my sort of evaluation of it was that this will be an emotional decision, which it may well be. Obviously, there's no way necessarily for me personally to know. That the reason that I said there was an emotional decision was because, again, this relates to Moon. And of course, Moon also rules things like home, food, shelter, safe spaces, women, children. So what I'm wondering is that, you know, just kind of to, maybe I should have expanded the scope of my predictions. And rather than focusing on the emotional sort of safety or emotional reaction, right, rather maybe I should have made a prediction about communication transportation company making some sort of a move or acquisition or sale that it relates to, again, areas that have to do with home, children, women, food, safety, sort of. So that would kind of fit more with that acquisition by Amazon of this, I believe it's called Aero startup. Because again, this helps you sort of secure your home, or at least in theory, to make your home be more, you know, comfortable. So that's about it as far as the predictions for last week. Then let's move on to this week's predictions. And I continue having kind of the prediction that's overall that there will be, again, increased probability of news about accidents and sort of problems, potentially problems with or at least surprising developments relating to cars, airspace, maybe electric cars, engines, cars, fires in general, some storms, explosions, attacks, telecoms, as well as sort of services and businesses that relate to military, sports, and any sort of equipment that maybe is electric equipment, that there may be problems, sudden, you know, interruptions of power, and things of that nature. So what I'm thinking is that since I'm recording this already on the 18th of February, since the US markets are closed today, I have seen already news, obviously, for the 18th. I have seen there was some news about really a major pile-up, like dozens of cars, and the, I believe it was, what is this called? Some sort of a, what is it, the racing? Oh, I should have it open somewhere. The NASCAR racing, where there was a really fairly major, I guess, pile-up, like I said, dozens of cars. So some things of that nature where you have this sudden pile-up where things are moving fast and suddenly they come to abrupt stop, and it involves this things that are like, again, cars, engines, moving parts, things that overheat. So we can see kind of more events of that nature continuing this week. And then similarly, continuous or prediction, standing prediction for Ruth Bader Ginsburg, that unfortunately February is not the best month for her as far as her health, and she may potentially leave her position, and if not, then May and June of 2019 will be the next sort of critical time for her, again, health-wise, and her just related to her career. So something that we're continuing to watch for. Also, two more predictions specifically for the US, and that one is from February 17th through March 5th of 2019, and in particularly this week, the week of February 18th, there may be increased news about military activities, weapons, as well as any sort of risky activities, sports, things that, involve like sharp objects, things that, explode, so maybe shootings, explosions, aggressive moves. It could also involve specifically stock market volatility, so there may be some, either say increased news about, some companies that are either involved in selling weapons or explosives or producing such explosives, or it could be geopolitical events, maybe some troops are deployed somewhere, or there may be some attack that needs to be contained, or there's some protests that again just involve a lot of angry people. So there's this kind of tendency to kind of get overheated, angry, and engage in sort of military resolution of military approach to resolving issues rather than sort of a soft diplomatic approach. So that's again February 17th through March 5th, but in particularly strong this week. And there may also be some sort of legal battles or problems around immigration. So battles over immigration and or legal battles that may again involve either military interventions or military personnel and or athletes, or like maybe teams or individual athletes. So problems with laws, immigration, or just issues that involve some sort of legal battles. And then finally, again, the prediction for the entire week, and really spanning more than 1 week for the US is from February 22nd, which is Friday, through March 17th of 2019, and especially felt strongly on the week of March 4th. Will be that increased, there will be increased focus on gas, oil, chemicals, navy, poisons, excessively wet weather, floods, water erosion, healthcare, religion, lies, deception, as well as movie and video industries, music industry, and things of that nature. So for those who know a little bit about astrology, so these are all Neptunian sort of influences. So any other Neptunian influences that you can think of. And basically, there may be some additional news in the US about some sort of either contracts that are excessively kind of expanding or contracting beyond maybe what's reasonable. So for example, a company that maybe has a lot of stores overseas, they may suddenly decide they're going to close them because they kind of expanded too quickly and they need to bring down the number of those locations, or vice versa. There may be some hype and excitement, some hopefulness, again, delusional hopefulness that things will kind of be better than expected, and the business will open a lot of locations overseas or expand, but then it will be based, like I said, on some sort of hype or delusion, and unfortunately that may be kind of have to be curtailed later on. Similarly, again, just news about the navy or gas and oil, so there may be again news about just gonna increase shipments, again shipments kind of increasing excessively, or vice versa, they're somehow prevented from proceeding, and there may be some problems with shipments, and again kind of excess and imbalance of the two. So either something was okay, let's ship, maybe send out a lot of ships or something like that, or send a lot of products related to, again, Neptune, such as chemicals of some sort, but then they are not really able to pass through, or vice versa, suddenly the floodgates open and things just water or shipments or businesses that were waiting and on hold, maybe some medication wasn't being approved, suddenly the floodgates open, so to speak, and shipment is allowed to pass through, or the medication is approved and suddenly you have kind of the market is flooded with the same type of medication. So just some sort of imbalance. And if it is related to medications, will probably have to do with something, maybe addictive substances, or something that is more of a liquid form of some sort rather than, say, like in the pill form. So whatever that may be. Right, so basically that could be, again, that's more for a week of the March 4th, but we will begin to feel this influence again in the US primarily on Friday. And Friday in general, as I'll get to it in a second, will be a fairly, I guess, the most sort of significant day of the week. And also I did post last week predictions for past weekend, as well as 18th, which is Monday. Even though US markets were closed, the weekend I thought was significant enough for us to kind of take note of that, and also other markets were open. So the overall influence for Monday, the 18th, kind of was fairly negative, or negative in the sense that just more realistic, because often I note that market kind of goes up on sort of hope and on the excitement, doesn't mean necessarily it's based on facts. So Monday was the kind of day that kind of more of a Saturnian influence was there, so stability based on realism, facts, kind of a proper, thorough evaluation of things. So it doesn't mean that market cannot go up, rather that if it does go up, it goes up for sort of the right reasons or solid reasons. So in Europe, I saw that UK markets went down, but there was a mixture, I guess, of up and down, slight up and down. The remaining European markets, Asian markets, I think went up, but I would say that obviously because they follow to a large degree US markets, which Friday wasn't a big up day for US. However, one other prediction I made specifically for, again, the weekend on Monday was, again, that we will see maybe positive news for industries that relate, again, to Saturn. So, for example, things that have to do with mining, coal, any metals, minerals, anything they can think is kind of excavated, mined from sort of soil and from the mountains. And I did see there was news about Monday. There was, 0.3% or something like that, some increase in price of copper, due to the expectation of, I guess, some negotiations between US and China. But again, copper or any other metals, and again, one could specifically look at charts for copper and evaluate it against the astrological transits and other charts, etc. for individual stocks, for individual commodities. It's just, again, obviously that's a lot more work, but I believe that that is sort of aligns with the copper went up, aligns with my prediction of sort of positive or stable news for Saturnian type of industries, which again involve like coal, metals, especially steel, and any sort of large construction projects and things of that nature. And let's see, then for February 18th, 19th, so Monday and Tuesday, I have prediction that we will hear more about like gas, oil, healthcare, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, Navy, movies, water, poisons, religion, mental health issues, and shipments, especially over water, as well as like these issues are related to various like negotiations, contracts, maybe sale of sort of businesses or services in those areas, or negotiating who can pass through this body of water or who can't, or sales or shipments of, say, oil and gas, things of that nature. So there will be more news of that. At the same time, there may be the negotiation may be somewhat confusing, so there may be some confusion related to that. So they may, or some deception, or there may be some vagueness about it. So there may be some promise like, okay, we are reaching an agreement, okay, but what are the details? So the details may be lacking. So the market may be excited, and I predict that Tuesday, the 19th, the market will go up, but probably will be, again, as I mentioned, on that sort of a hopeful expectation that there is some promise of things happening, but the details may not be there, which I believe things will go back down on Wednesday. And in addition to that, as far as weather is concerned, there might be additional news about like floods, storms, the erosion of soil, and there may be some problems associated with that, obviously mudslides and things of that nature. And there may also be increased news about some vaccines, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, and if so, there will likely be, again, related to addictive substances, poisons, I'm thinking Monsanto for some reason, or vaccines or anesthesia, so things that basically alter your, I guess, sort of state of mind, or alter your, things can alter your body's, health in a chemical way. So that's Monday, Tuesday, and Tuesday, again, as I said, I gave it about 60% that the market will go up for two reasons. One, because of the reversal of aspects between Monday and Tuesday. When one aspect becomes kind of exact, there is a one influence, but when those planets separate, usually we see a reversal in whatever direction. And then on Wednesday, February 20th, I believe the market will possibly go down again, so the 55 to 60% probability, and continuing focus on oil, gas, healthcare, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, Navy, movies, music, religion, health, issues, mental health issues, and so forth. But and too much water, rains, snowstorms, floods, etc., saturated soil, and there may be, collapses of some buildings, and particularly for some reason I think that maybe it may involve a hospital or some sort of facilities that again take care of needy folks that can't really help themselves at that moment in time. However, the news, again, compared to Tuesday, maybe even more negative or more negative, such that, again, they may involve people actually suffering from, bad weather. Like I said, water erosion, building collapses, drug has some negative trial results, chemical poisoning, there's a spill. Again, the influence is minor, nevertheless, it is something to keep an eye on. So hence the Wednesday, I predict that will most likely be down. On Thursday, February 21st, the astrological influences are somewhat mixed, but I think let's give it a benefit of the doubt that I think it will go up 55%. As far as focus of the I guess on the topics in the news in those times, February 21st through 24th, especially the 22nd, which is Friday, as I said, a very strong sort of influence day. There may be increased focus on things like rates, taxes, loans, debt, mining, also steel, coal, any sort of metals, minerals, precious metals as well in particular, and nuclear power plants, recycling facilities, especially anything that's underground and things that are being recycled, that kind of taking things that are really dirty and nasty, taking it and trying to make profit out of them. And sewage, I guess, falls under that as well, anything to do with death, for example, as well as radiation, spying, hacking, something that's like hidden, unsavory, and as well as just recycling, especially of underground facilities and or those that recycle nuclear fuel. Let's see, yes, not nuclear power plants and weapons. So we may hear increased news about these topics, and there may be along the lines of how do we make profit from that? Governments or large corporations investing in such projects and or regulating things, again, to gain, I guess, money from them via taxes or tariffs, or maybe there may be even increased prices on the related sort of commodities. So whatever I guess, I'm not sure, I guess it's Uranus ore that's used, Uranus is astrology, so uranium ore or any sort of metals or chemicals that are used for, say, nuclear power plants, they may go up in price, or at least there may be increased focus on that. And again, that's February 21st through 24th, and the strongest influence is Friday the 22nd. Then the remaining also few days of the week, February 21st through 23rd, so that would be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, in the US specifically, there may be increased focus on, again, military activities, military leaders, weapons, shootings, aggressive moves, stock market volatility, risking transactions, aggressive sort of behaviors, and aggressive could be just sort of threatening or just playing sort of hard as far as negotiations go. Also, there may be news about some achievements, maybe sports achievements beyond what one would expect. Expansion internationally, so some bases or some shipments, or weapons or military personnel, kind of expanding things, or even sports teams somehow, I guess they signed foreign athletes or something like that. Or again, sports, either leaders or athletes experiencing problems with the law, or military personnel or companies or that say produce weapons experiencing problems with the law. Again, increased focus on immigration and legal battles of all sorts, again related to sports, military, and international partners and negotiations with international partners. So there may be new contracts related to military or sort of military expansion beyond what is expected, large-scale movements of military forces or weapons, primarily overseas, some sort of a new aggressive, risky in terms of the terms of the contract with international partners, or disagreements with the international partners over sort of military-related issues or over immigrations, and or sort of a hardball, like I said, playing hardball when discussing things with international partners. So the agreements may be signed, and agreements will either relate to, say, sports and military or weapons, or they may relate to some other topics, but they will be signed under pressure through this, I guess, battling things out rather than, oh yeah, we all agree and it's just very easy for us to agree on it. It will be more like this battle, and the agreements will be signed only after that kind of a really tough negotiations. We may also hear about, like I said, legal problems involving, say, military or athletes, exceptionally large contracts signed by athletes, or athletes losing large sums of money. There may also be news about excessive expansion or excessive contraction of businesses that produce either engines or chemicals or supplies that may be used to produce some sort of weapons, or I guess anything that explodes or used to, say, heat things. So there may be some, again, some sort of imbalance where either the related, say, commodities go up in price more than expected, or the companies decide really to cut things dramatically or maybe expand dramatically because of some hopes. But again, it will be sort of imbalanced and not necessarily based on thorough evaluation, but more on that kind of expectation. And again, unfortunately, also increased probability for the US of news about fires, explosions, shootings, accidents, and especially involving airplanes, engines. And most likely that will be either shipments or some sort of vehicles, I guess, traveling that either travel long distance or carry international travelers. And sort of there may also be increased probability of protests, and that again may likely have to do with either some legal issues or immigration or even higher education, things of that nature. So then for China, February 21st, 22nd, Thursday, Friday are also significant as far as what their chart, the aspects to their chart. And for them, for China, there may be increased focus on healthcare, oil, gas, steel, coal, mining, metals, minerals, hidden and secret activities, navy, water, healthcare, medicines, international relations, long distance transportation, and shipments, especially of either industrial equipment or products such as, again, steel, minerals, metals, and as well as, again, focus on religion, pollution, and recycling. So again, Thursday, Friday for China, especially Friday, there may be news about either, again, expansion in those domains. In this case, it will be a balanced expansion, as in there will be no like expanding here, contracting there. It will either be bet on expanding these businesses by maybe signing more contracts or kind of delivering more products overseas, or taking in, say, more products for recycling or something like that. And or maybe some additional, again, there could also be news about lies or confusion or something that's hidden. So some secrets kind of either multiply and some news goes out there and becomes kind of a big I guess, confusion and big balloon sort of that's full of hot air, or a lie or secret may kind of get exposed. And again, this may have to do with either something that's being poisoned or was misrepresented, or something, there's a pollution either underground or in the water that's been hidden. It may come up, or it may actually be happening this Thursday, Friday, but we may not find out about it later. So let's see. So either way, there may be more news about these domains for China, and in particularly there may relate to trying to kind of change the situation to increase earnings or expand, especially internationally. So then finally, Friday, I predict that the market will most likely go down 60 to 65%. And again, market is, I'm specifically talking about American markets, so primarily Dow Jones and NASDAQ, SPF500. So let's see the indexes, the meta indexes, and then it will be, regardless of the direction, a day of fairly large, I guess, market moves. So there may be increased market volatility that day, and a lot of more news, as you saw. That I said that they're also at the same day at the same day as their major global transits happening, there will also be kind of hits to both China and US charts. I'm expecting Thursday, Friday, especially Friday, there will be increased negotiations, and potentially the news will be affecting the stock market that day. And globally, on Friday there may be increased news that focus on sales, international agreements, immigration, transportation, especially long distance and overseas, communication, news, media companies, etc. So there may be some international agreements may be reached and contracts may be signed, But again, this may have to do with, not have to do with, but rather this may occur through some sort of, I guess, fighting it out, where the contract may be signed that benefit one side more than the other, or some side will be forced to make concessions because either they're, say, manipulated behind the scenes, or literally they're forced because, you know, maybe there's a threat out there of either one side making some sort of risky, aggressive move, or literally a military threat, or something that involves, you know, I wouldn't say truly violent standoff, but like sort of a saber rattling in the background. And let's see, and there also may be additional news this Friday, the 22nd of February, about, again, there may be some confusing news that might come up, and, you know, something like takes off on social media, and it's just everybody's spreading it, everybody's retweeting it or whatever, and then it comes up that it's not true. So some sort of a rumor, and again, that may have to do with trading, right? So maybe some rumor about, say, China and US reaching some agreement, or really anything else under the sun, or it could just be some sort of a celebrity doing something and there's news about it, and again, things are spreading, but then it turns out to be untrue. And or there may be just in general increased news about communication, sort of a social media companies as well, but this may have to do with either confusion or lies or some deception or something that's vague and that's unclear, like what are they doing, why are they doing this. And again, there may be a lot of like questions about that before things are finally clarified. And finally, there may be increased news about like sales or agreements that have to do with oil, gas, medicines, again, chemicals, all these Neptunian sort of influences. And or they also may be, and again, those news may be somewhat, I wouldn't say combative, but they either will be sort of beneficial for chemicals that are used for, say, I don't know, explosives, or, you know, started sort of chemical fires. So if those chemicals are used for that, their value may go up or things may go well. If they're used for really something that's supposed to be used for peace, so to speak, or healing, there may be problems where maybe they're burned too much or they're too strong. And or there may also be news about chemicals or some sort of rings, you know, of bad people, drug cartels that either smuggle drugs or people, and such individuals may be potentially caught, or they may be, obviously they're caught maybe every day somewhere in the world, but particularly on Friday there may be kind of more major news about things of that nature. And there was one more thing I guess I forgot to mention as far as my predictions for last week. I specifically predicted that there will be news of a celebrity from either music industry or an actor, that there will be either receiving some sort of recognition, recognized for their talents, for example, or about them being, you know, addicted to something, or having mental issues, or engaging in deceptive behavior. And I didn't really follow this story previously, but I did see this weekend that there were a lot of news about Jesse Smollett, this actor that I guess right now he was supposedly involved or was a victim of the alleged attack because he was black and gay. And now I guess there are news about him potentially, again, the story is still unfolding, potentially even that he has hired somebody to sort of create this attack. So that's still unclear. Regardless, you know, that's sort of the Neptunian influence in music, acting, and deception, or I guess, like I said, mental health issues, or even your talent, again, in acting and music especially. So Neptune kind of rules all of the above, and I specifically saw in the US chart that it will be related to an individual and an actor most likely. And indeed we had these news, and indeed the story is a little bit vague and unclear at the very minimum, and potentially it looks like as of this time that there may have been some deception involved. At the very minimum, the facts are not clear and a little bit kind of hard to believe just based on the description of the events. Again, I didn't really follow that previously. Apparently, attack had happened some weeks ago, but I did see this weekend that there were some updates on that story, which is where I thought that that would have been a good manifestation of the prediction I made last week about, again, an actor or musician engaging in some deceptive behavior, or being, you know, recognized publicly for, you know, coming up with some either issues or something that's unclear, and again, potentially involves deception. So I've been talking long enough, as usual. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and good luck to everyone. and have fun and come back for more. I'll talk to you later.